The queen is dead. Some people are mourning her passing. Some people are dancing on her grave. Are they horrible people for doing so? Welcome to Escaping the Echo Chamber. The responses to the Queen's death, the Queen of England's death, are on various ends of the spectrum. Like I said, you've got some that are mourning her death, statements, heads of state that have, this is so tragic. You've got individuals who's like, the Queen has passed. This is a sad day. Number one, the woman was at a very ripe old age. Death happens. We know this. Now, of course, to people who cared about her, who were close to her, regardless of when death happens, it's still a sad event for them. But what about people that didn't like her? What about people that didn't like the British Empire? See, those people, many of those people, are being very vocal in their pleasure over her death. But there are other people that are saying, that's classless. That's like, no, a woman is dead. And the question is it wrong to celebrate when somebody dies? I did a video, I think it was last year, about when Rush Limbaugh died. And there were people that were dancing on his grave, metaphorically. And I says, hey, in fact, let's take a look at what I said.
Rush hurt people's feelings. Rush had no problem hurting people's feelings. Rush wanted to be like a shock jock. Cool. Oh, he was just playing character. Okay, but that's the character he played. That's the character he played like every day of his life in his public persona. And so he wanted to be antagonistic, and he wanted to stick it to the liberals. Okay, so he did that, and now he's dead. So they felt some type of way bad when he was living and doing it. So now they feel some type of way good that he's dead. Deal with it. Like, this is, you don't get to live your life where you're just, giving the middle finger to millions of people and then expect those millions of people to mourn you. Like, no, that's life.
Because you see, if during my life, I've done actions, and let's be clear, what Rush Limbaugh did was antagonize people. What Rush Limbaugh did was say mean and horrible things. So if the people he said mean and horrible things are happy for his death, it is what it is. Don't cry now. If you want to be celebrated in death, do acts worthy of celebration in life. If you're living your life in a way that irritates, antagonizes people, don't be surprised that they feel happy about your death. The Queen didn't just oversee harsh rhetoric. The Queen oversaw criminal acts. And I'm not going to say criminal acts because as a head of state, I want to get away from the word criminal. I'm going to say immoral acts because we have a bad habit of equating morality and legality. So regardless of whether or not her acts were legal by international law or even British law, that's irrelevant. They were immoral. The acts of the British Empire were immoral. They killed people. They took people's lives. That is far more significant in impact than just Rush Limbaugh being a complete and utter jackass to people. We're talking about people losing their lives. We're talking about people who did not get the benefit of dying at a ripe old age of 94, 96, peacefully in their sleep. They didn't get to die like that. So when there are people celebrating, the question is, are they wrong? Are they classless? How classy is it to take people's lives? How classy is it to treat people as property? How classy is it to wreak havoc all over the planet? How classy is that? So, right now, and one of the biggest problems we have on this planet is that we have people in charge that value symbolism over substance. There's a reason they do that. Because they know they are not the most moral people. So they must create these illusions, these symbols of virtue, rather than the actual substance of virtue. So by creating these illusions, these symbols of virtue and of goodness, they get to pretend as if they're the good guys. But if we look at the actual actions, we'll see a completely different story. We'll see people who aren't fit to lead. We'll see people for the monsters they truly are. We'll see that the leaders all over this planet are horrible people that are not fit to be in power. They don't want us to see that. So that is why those individuals, that is why somebody like Jeff Bezos decides to insinuate himself into this scenario when a Nigerian professor comes out with a tweet that some are like, oh, that's just too far. Too far? How many people did she kill? Like, I mean, if we want to talk about too far, how many people with her words did she kill? In fact, she didn't even kill the one person whose death we're talking about. She didn't kill Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth died. She's just celebrating. Like, so are you literally saying it is worse to celebrate a death than to cause a death? Because that's what you got to be saying if you're saying this woman is classless, but you're having these weeks long celebration of Queen Elizabeth's life, despite the fact that she oversaw the deaths of so many. At some point, you would assume, you would hope that reality sets in, but it doesn't look like it is. But you realize there are people that see beyond the facade, and not all of them decide that, oh, this world is bad, I want to make it a better place. There's some people who see beyond the facade, and they're like, okay, this world is run by bloodthirsty murderers. I'm gonna be a bloodthirsty murderer and do it myself. And we will see those monsters on the news all day long. And the news will let us know they're monsters because they're not acting within the system. It's not their acts that the news is offended by. It's the fact that they're engaging in their acts for their own interest rather than for the interest of the system. Symbolism over substance. Virtue signaling over actual virtue. So when people are saying, oh, it's classless, I'm like, you know what's classless? Killing people is classless. Wreaking havoc all over the planet sounds pretty classless to me. And quite frankly, even if it wasn't classless, even if it's classless to celebrate a death but not to cause a death, then that means that the value of being classy isn't very valuable. That means being classy is horribly overrated. Because yes, that means that classiness is more about symbolism rather than substance. One of the interesting things I saw in this discussion, in this outcry, in this response to Queen Elizabeth's death was the activities of Irish Twitter and Black Twitter. And to just give you a brief overview, every year I do some coverage of Black History Month. And I'll talk about various figures from Black history and how they impact us. And like it seems almost every year somebody will, oh, well, what about White History Month? And then I will let them know and say, well, there is White History Month. And if you actually cared, you'd know that. Because while Black History Month is in February, there are several White History Months, the next one being Irish History Month in March. I remember, I think it was last year. Last year, I actually started looking up some Irish history during Irish History Month, following some accounts. And what I learned, woo, about Irish history, the Irish history with the British. Good God. You might want to start looking some of that up. You might want to look up why Irish Twitter went off. Because if you think Black Twitter was going in, Irish Twitter went all the way off. They pulled no punches. And quite frankly, I don't blame them. I do want to add some dishonorable mentions. The Jamaica apparently is having 12 days of mourning. Like, are you serious? After all the havoc that the British Empire has wrought, you're having mourning, days of mourning, like almost 2 weeks of mourning for this monster. And then Ghana. The president of Ghana, who I knew was a clown when he implemented a vax mandate to enter the country for a vax that his government had nothing to do with. Once he did that, once the president of Ghana did that, I knew this dude was a clown, but he did some more clown nonsense in, oh, we're so heartbroken. At some point, we need to stand on principle. And the principle is what's right, what's wrong. I'm not going to celebrate a monster just because it makes people feel comfortable. Because what you're doing then is you're saying what they've done is all right. What they've done is not a problem. No, there must be accountability. And we must stand on the principle that those that have done evil and continue to do evil, I don't care what government they are in charge of, must be viewed and treated as the monsters they are. Because listen, there's several other heads of state that when they pass of natural causes or whatever, when they pass of natural causes in their bed, that's a much more peaceful death than many people, many lives that they've taken all over the globe. And I won't be shedding a tear for any of these scumbags. As always, don't forget to hit the thumbs up, like, share, subscribe if you have not subscribed. If you have not subscribed already, and if you want to see more about that video where I talk about celebrating people's death, you can click right here. I'll see you next time. A quick side note. It also reminds me of the so wise words of a particular historic figure that I have such admiration for. Sounds like chickens coming home to roost. And I ain't never been one to cry over chickens coming home to roost. Of course, the difference is, in this case, the violence that was visited upon the world, this person managed to avoid. Unfortunately, there are many others who are unable to avoid the violence that their empire visited upon them